In your own like demiurge prison.
Yeah. No, so I don't know.
Hello and
Yo.
welcome back to Mystic in the Machine. So sorry we left you. We needed a break. We needed a big, long, massive break from Le Discourse. And we also got pretty depressed after coming back from Japan as well.
Yeah.
We just like have been totally down in the dumps ever since we set foot back in Blighty, as we call it. And yeah, who can blame us? Asia's kind of flexing on everybody right now, which I think is kind of cool.
Well, that was definitely none of the reason why I had stars in my eyes, I guess, when I came back from Japan.
Going to Japan has like ruined you.
Thank you.
It's all I've been hearing about for the last month straight.
Well, it's just like everything that goes wrong, you're just like, oh, that wouldn't happen in Japan.
Yeah, literally. Literally. But no, for me, it is a big part. Like, we're going to talk about DeepSeek, obviously. But like, obviously people are now, drawn towards like East Asia in a way that like previously they haven't been. Like, even when TikTok was banned a couple of weeks ago, everyone ran to Xiaohongshu. And like, I'm very much into like beauty products and stuff, specifically East Asian beauty products. So I already am a Xiaohongshu girly. And
did you get the app? Did you like?
I've had it
for
for a while. It's not that great though, so I don't use it all the time. But like, yeah, I've had it for a while. And yeah, I guess the whole thing with DeepSeek made me realize just how much East Asian culture is kind of like becoming this major influence. And I think going to Japan like kind of cemented that for me, that I've been propagandized and like influenced. I'm like I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. But yeah, for you, what was getting you down in the dumps about being back?
I don't know. I think I did kind of say the story on the last episode, but it was just like it was possibly the worst way to come back into the UK, if you know what I mean. Like, you just gone to this place that's had like a dream-like status in my mind since I was like pretty much 6 years old. And then literally on the way back, train runs at like a minuscule pace because it's fucking broken or whatever bullshit fucking excuse they had when we got back from Gatwick. Had to pay nearly like, what was it, £2.50 or some shit for a bottle of water in at the airport.
It just kept building up.
Yeah, so that happened first. Then the fucking trains were shit, and then got back to Euston, and I had to like step over like a literal entire street of trash that had just blown in the wind, and like the council hadn't collected it or whatever the fuck. And like loads of homeless people, like all on the same street, and it was just like I was like, dude, I've actually had enough of this. Like, I realized that like this isn't actually just the standard thing that you have to put up with if you live in like a big city. This is all kind of like, it really just drilled home how much of the reality is political choices that have been made, and how much that fucking sucks. And yeah.
Well, we started watching Shogun. We're on episode 2 now, I think.
Yeah.
And in the first episode, there's that like scene where the Spanish guy takes him to the big city for the English guy to the big city for the first time, and he's like, "You think where you come from is the height of civilization, Anglaise? Think again." And it's this like huge wide shot of like the city that was like us, literally. And yeah, it did bring into stark relief. Going and visiting Japan did bring into stark relief just how shit things are currently in the West, and how those shit things are as a result of choices largely centered around greed. And not to say that greed isn't a factor in East Asia. I mean, like, fucking South Korea is basically like a cyberpunk oligarchy. But because of those sorts of, I guess, Confucian values and very strong kind of cultural values, there's still thought put into like the public good, the basic public good. And that's not a factor here at all, because the only sort of driving principle is greed. And like that really hit me in the face, just seeing like the contrast between the two societies. And yeah, it did make me depressed. I'm not gonna lie, it did make me like down in the dumps.
And it was like, I don't know,
in a massive way.
There's this sort of like a thing that was said by a lot of progressive people, oh, white people don't have culture and this kind of thing. And I thought like in England it's like, oh, that's kind of like not really fair. Like I think there is, even like outside of just like the bullshit answers, there's still a lot of like valid, great, interesting culture that comes from the whites.
Here we go.
However, like I think it just seeing how much everything seeps into just like everyday life in Japan kind of really made me feel like, oh, actually no, we don't.
No.
We don't. We actually
no.
We actually don't have
No.
culture.
No.
We actually like have bullshit basically.
Yeah.
Like
Well, it ties into the whole DeepSeek thing, and I mean, for those who don't know what that is, China just sort of released its AI program that it's been developing, which they spent, I think, only 5 million on developing, despite the fact that like OpenAI and a bunch of the other sort of firms in America that have been working on this technology have been funneling billions into it. The new sort of technocratic Trump regime has been funneling billions into it, and this company has managed to do it like not only for cheaper, but has like made it open source. And they've done it without like, well, allegedly anyway, without the NVIDIA technology that's been like gate-kept away from Western rivals.
Apparently there was like a bunch of students that got caught smuggling those chips from MIT to China and all sorts of shit.
Regardless,
so,
even if they did get the NVIDIA chips, they still have like, more than halved the infrastructure needs and all sorts of things, which is why, again, the stock market also crashed because of this, because obviously so much investment has been poured into it.
It was also just like a little bit of bittersweet tears, because they were sort of also saying like, oh, you've trained this, or you've like redistributed open like ChatGPT essentially, but then done training differently, or you've done like it's like kind of you've taken our stuff basically for free and then trained this thing on it, and it's sort of like yeah, bro, isn't that it wasn't that like the game?
Yeah,
isn't that also like why even me as a musician like gives you a complete pass, because that's just the environment. Like if it's on the internet, it's free. And almost the audience expectation is that like most things would be free at point of access or whatever, right? And so,
well, at least it used to be before like the whole subscribe to life model really started to kick in.
But I think it's just kind of shown that there's like a lot of like bloated bullshit.
Oh yeah,
even within those like really supposedly successful tech companies. And
also it goes back to the sort of clash of the two ethoses in the West. It's like about dominance, gatekeeping, and greed. And that's sort of what's behind everything. Whereas in what you see is like China using diplomacy, innovation, soft power. And also just in general, Asia has become this sort of expert at soft power, because like, look at how much their culture is influencing everything, especially those of us who are like the millennial/Gen Z generation. Like we've all grown up watching Japanese cartoons, listening to Japanese music. Even now as a grown woman, I'm obsessed with East Asian beauty products. And that's like a huge thing. Tonight, to celebrate the Lunar New Year, we had a Japanese meal. You know why? Because there's like 5 Japanese corner shops. Like
Asian supermarkets.
Supermarkets, sorry. Like right near where we live. That the soft power kind of diplomacy cultural route is really like helping East Asia dominate and win in a lot of ways. Whereas if you look at the West, who just got elected in America, somebody who wants to take like the opposite ham-fisted approach of dominance and gatekeeping and building walls. And I just feel like, you know, the global kind of market is moving away from that. And I think East Asia is kind of winning in a lot of ways because they kind of get how the new order is, basically.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of more. It's more like if it provably makes like social cohesion, people are kind of willing to put up with that, like whatever kind of bullshit really, I guess, comes with it. And so in China, that comes with like a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
But then again, like the society and whatever is probably pretty stable, and they kind of are able to manage things pretty well out there.
Yeah.
Which is why, I don't know, some of the reason why at least there's not like massive revolution or like whatever against the government.
Well, even more so now because they have better bread and better circuses.
Mm-hmm.
And now their bread and circuses are appealing more to people in the West than the bread and circuses that are being generated here. I mean, like I said, like when the whole TikTok blackout thing happened for a night, everyone was running to Xiaohongshu, you know. Now, you know, DeepSeek is like the most downloaded app. You know, so many things of theirs are highly coveted, whether it be their tech products, their cultural products. It's only a matter of time before the East, you know, becomes the one. And that's how I felt when I was out there. I'm just being honest about it.
Yeah.
It did really feel like that, not to say that it's like perfect, East Asia's perfect, it doesn't have any problems. It has myriad issues, many of the same ones we're facing here. But just in terms of like an ethos that isn't so like psychopathic in the same way that our ethos is, I feel like the quality of life out there is a lot higher.
Definitely.
Yeah.
From like what you get for your money, especially, and value for money for like quality of food and like everything else like that. It's crazy in comparison to what we have to deal with, especially just living in London. Like, you know.
Well, let's show our first video. They've started off the Lunar New Year by flexing on us with their cool robots. Let's show the video.
Yes, and in recent years, China has emerged as a global powerhouse in the field of artificial intelligence and robotics. As you can see, well, these robots are amazing. Wow, they're actually dancing younger, which is a very famous form of Chinese dance. I used to do a little bit of younger dancing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you good at it?
I'm actually pretty good. It's actually not that difficult to learn.
Right.
You gotta follow like your movement, like a 4-step movement. I'm sure you know there are more advanced forms out there.
Of course. And it's amazing to see robots, because robots tend to be not that flexible.
Right.
You know, and they can follow the rhythms and they can do the moves just like the human. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's my first time to see this kind of miracle.
And the Chinese.
Is that from the news?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, sometimes I feel like I don't have like enough interesting insight to do a podcast, and then I hear like professional journalists, and I'm like, actually, bro, you're kind of good to go.
Yeah,
like,
dude, genius.
You know, we should start getting React bot on the stream. We should. I think this is going to be a new addition for the stream.
Oh yeah, big time.
For these things, so that we can have like a third input of like
a third AI member of the show.
For anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about,
I want a robot member instead. I think we should get one of those.
Well, he is like a robot member. Oh, well, not like an actual, but no, because then we got to get another camera. We got to figure out like how we'd like film him. That's why React bot's the best, because he's just a software robot.
Okay.
You know.
Just streamline, easy.
This guy on YouTube called Jax Films basically made this little piece of software called React Bot that says 700 or something, like random shitty like YouTube reactor phrases
Amazing.
at the hit of a button. And so like
Amazing.
it's a roll of a dice if it's going to have like a better insight than even professional fucking journalists or something like that. It's pretty funny.
Oh my God.
We'll have to get it for the next stream.
I just thought it was funny that they're flexing on us with their like weird fucking robot dance.
I mean, it is crazy. It is crazy. And I think like, I don't know, this is just, it is weird to think like what the fuck does Britain do on the world stage
Fuck
at this point?
all.
It's
Absolutely
like,
fuck
it's
all.
it's so I like never really kind of paid much attention to it, and then as I've gotten older, I guess I've just sort of like noticed it a little bit more. Just been like, we don't really make anything, dude, or we don't really fucking. What is this
Didn't you
place?
see
What do we do?
Didn't
What do
you
we
see
make?
nothing?
Like, what? Is it Harry Potter? Is that it? Like,
we export like shitty reality TV models.
Yeah.
Because the Americans like to buy like our shitty reality TV models from
Superhero
us.
actors. We have a lot of superhero
actors as
Benedict
well.
Cumberbatch, Tom
Yeah.
Holland.
Couple of
You know,
those.
they're in the Marvel
Some
universe.
shitty pop stars and
Yeah,
stuff.
like,
but then
is that
again, the thing is, Britain did do a lot of soft power shit in the Britpop era, because that whole thing was like a Blair government top down psyop.
Yeah, you have to elaborate. You have to elaborate on that. You can't just drop those kinds of spicy nuggets.
What do you mean?
And
How
just
is
leave it hanging
how
there.
is that a spicy nugget? I'm confused.
You say that like it's the common opinion that everybody knows this thing.
Everybody knows this. It is known.
No, nobody.
That like Blair.
Nobody talks about this.
Blair Oasis.
You're the only person I know in real life that ever mentions this.
Well, yeah, during the sort of that 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s era with like Britpop, Spice Girls, all of that was like government, like fucking shit.
What do you mean?
As in the British government was attempting to kind of increase its prestige and influence abroad. So they invested in certain cultural programs. And it works. Like for a while there, even people who weren't British were wearing Union Jacks as a sign of being cool or counterculture or whatever the fuck. And, you know, the 60s again with like the Beatles, they came through like the Tavistock Institute, which was another one of those like weird government fucking program thingies.
Think tank thingies.
Yeah, think tank thingies. And now I think East Asia, especially Japan, has sort of looked at those models of like attempting to build soft power, because Britain used to be the expert in soft power. And I think they've kind of studied those models in terms of building soft power and are now doing it better than we even did. Like my mom is a Nigerian who's obsessed with fucking K-dramas. All my mom does is watch K-dramas.
Was it ever really soft power though? I feel like colonialism is kind of hard
we
power.
that hard power.
I feel like
was
that's
a thing.
the hardest of power.
Hard power was a thing up until like the
Like-
19th century, and then Britain started to focus more on soft power and like cultural influence and things like that. And, you know, I feel like that's kind of what East Asia is doing currently. Like I said, all my mom does is watch K-dramas in Nigeria. Like,
Well,
K-dramas are a
there's,
huge thing in Nigeria, even to the point where Nigerians are now making their own K-dramas.
what do they do? Like Asian face?
Yeah. No, but they're like speaking Korean and like they're in high
God.
school and stuff. It's
Wow.
bizarre. There's even when we went to Lagos, there's a Chinatown in Lagos. This is like a global thing now where East Asia is like really just fucking
Everyone.
yeah. And if I was gonna up and leave to go move anywhere, I would definitely be carrying myself there.
Well,
If I want to do a millennial midlife crisis and move somewhere, I'm definitely carrying myself there.
to where?
Japan or somewhere.
Japan.
Even China.
Yeah.
I would do China. I've done China before. China's great.
Nah, Japan. I wanna try and get there as well somehow, some way, because it'd be fucking jokes.
that'd be cool. This is all we've been talking about for the last fucking month since we came. Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. The soft power sort of diplomacy they're doing is working. Look at all the anime that's like on Netflix. Look at all
It's the only reason I still keep my Netflix subscription.
is for the anime.
Yeah, because literally, what else is on Netflix that we've watched that's like a person show, like with people?
Nothing for a while. because the Americans stole Black Mirror from us and ruined it.
Well, and they've also not done it for 4 years between every season and stuff.
True.
I don't know if they're paying Charlie Brooker that much money or like what the fucking deal is, but you know, now we don't have that every year.
No.
You don't have like a bunch of stuff, and like even all the shows that I do enjoy, a lot of them are like like Shogun was friggin' BBC, Severance, Apple.
Yeah.
So like all the people shows I watch with like real life people are not on Netflix.
No, we've been watching like Jake has been watching like Delicious in Dungeon and Dan Da Dan and all kinds of silliness. And like, yeah, it's getting crazy how much Japanese culture is just like, just not just Japanese culture, East Asian culture in general is just kind of like culture now in that sense. Like there's like an Oseo that we frequent all the time. There's like a friggin', what's the name of the shop where they sell all the Sanrio shit that's like all over Oxford Street now?
Oh, Miniso.
Yeah, Miniso is this new sort of
cutesy
Sanrio chain that like is everywhere in London. And you see all the sort of Gen Z and Gen Alpha kids, they're obsessed with Japanese culture in a way even we weren't. Because when I was growing up, it was still like not socially acceptable to be a fucking weeb.
It wasn't even, I guess no one was a weeb. It was just seen as like everyone's into Pokemon because Pokemon's fucking dope.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really like, oh, you're really into Pokemon.
No.
That means you're fucking lame. It's just like,
No.
oh, that means you've probably got really sick Pokemon. I would never beat you in a battle. When everyone brings their Game Boys to school. That
as
fucking
much as
sucks.
I am making the soy face for East Asia right now, I am aware that these are soft power campaigns by massive nations or whatever. So you do have to be mindful about that aspect of it. But in terms of who's playing the best soft power game right now, they are doing it. And they're beating the English at what was originally our fucking game. You know, I'm really sad about it.
When was it really out? When was the
My
soft
goodness,
power?
like England was like associated with England was like the height of sophistication and suave. You know, that took a lot of time to.
That feels so foreign.
And then it was the height of cool in the 90s as well. Like, and a lot of that wasn't just organic. A lot of that was actually like fucking, you know.
I don't know if it was the coolest place to be in the 90s. I don't know if I think that's a bit of propaganda you've taken in.
Where would you say was the coolest place to be in the 90s? Where would you want to be in the 90s? I think probably,
by the looks of things, Japan. But throughout the decades and like for most, apart from that, like, you know, a couple of years where they were being a bit crazy.
Let's stop yammering for 2 seconds and say hi to people.
Oh.
Sorry. Hello, everyone.
Jay George.
Hi, Jay George. We missed you too. We're sorry that we disappeared.
Oh, hold on. I got to chat up.
We were in like a very foul mood. And yeah, it's not nice to stream when you're not in the mood.
You all gave us Tilda Swinton. Noel Gallagher used to hang with Tony Blair. There's a bunch of really interesting bands that deserves the hype of Oasis. Oh, Ubik, that's a great username, bro. Hey, how you doing? Swing in London, dude. Yeah. So you say the whole Swing in London. Yeah. So in the 60s for
and
sure.
And the 90s.
But and
not all of that was organic. Some
90s.
of that was actually pushed by the government. And what I'm saying is governments have had these sort of soft power cultural sort of campaigns where they've like funded certain things or
Jay George, I'm fully aware of the cool music that was. I'm not saying that there wasn't cool music, and I think that that's also kind of. It's also just very surface level of what I think we mean by culture anyway. But also, I don't know. I don't think that like because culture is also like how you live life and shit, man. And I don't know if like how people lived life was the coolest in the 90s in England. From all the descriptions I've heard about London, especially, is a very, very, very different place now than it was even 30 years ago.
Yeah.
To where like we had a friend that was used to work in Soho before my times. And he used to tell me that the most exotic thing you could get in Soho was a German sausage. That was not even a joke. That was a
Wow.
factual statement.
Wow.
And now look at Soho.
Yeah.
Do you know
it's
what I
like
mean?
The most, like,
You
bougie
can't.
fucking-
You walk 2 blocks and you've literally gone around the world with cuisine.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a completely different city than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's just so fucking Victorian and outdated and shit here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's
And
actually
Dickensian.
it's actually insane. And I used to
Yeah.
think like, oh, that has kind of like somewhat of a charm, but then you realize like, oh, all those places
No,
are
but
just
you're,
like
you're
cut up
forgetting.
into like
you're
tiny
forgetting-
fucking
you're-
flats, and it's also just Victorian but in a
No,
cyberpunk
but
way now.
the same way we're talking about like the dark side of the UK, I'm sure there are lots of Japanese people who would say certain things about the dystopian aspects of Japan.
Oh, for sure.
What I'm
for sure, for
talking
sure.
specifically about is like PR and
Yeah.
images and like what people perceive.
Yeah, I
Because
guess.
what I'm not saying, I'm not even talking about China or East Asia or China, Japan, or all those other parts of East Asia, like their utopias. I'm specifically talking about the sort of PR image they're projecting right now,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're sort of successfully winning the soft power PR game.
Mm-hmm.
And the West seems to have sort of given up on that. And more they're looking like the aspirational place to live. And as a Nigerian immigrant person who also keeps tabs on what's going on in the Nigerian immigrant community, a lot of Nigerian migrants and students and stuff, now they want to go live in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
They're watching K-dramas and they're like applying to universities in South Korea. A lot of them, that's unheard of. This is where they wanted to come to, or like America or other parts of Europe. And I don't know. I use that the Nigerian community is almost like a litmus test in that sense. And yeah, it does feel like energy is shifting out east.
Someone called I says, "Can you guys go China now? I bet it's a million percent better than Japan's." Like, I don't know about that, bro. I haven't been to China
I love
properly.
China. What I 中国.
But I did have to travel through China on the way back to Japan,
And I got to practice my Chinese, which was nice.
It did spook me the fuck out. I'm not gonna lie.
No,
It
you're
was
just
fucking-
you're just such a West. He's just such a stupid.
the skyline,
foreigner.
bro. The skyline. It's not.
No, China's
It's not.
great.
It's
China's
not a
great.
Tokyo skyline. I tell you that.
I
for
love
fucking
getting
free.
to speak Chinese to Chinese people because they're like so unimpressed
Mhm.
by foreigners speaking Chinese.
That's what I mean. That's what I love about Japan is that you say like arigato gozaimasu like in a really like shit fucking English accent, and they're like, "Oh, very good, very good," and they fucking love it.
I like Chinese people
It's
because
like-
they're like real. They're not necessarily like
They're way more polite. Yeah, exactly. They're way more
Chinese
polite.
people
and
aren't
nice,
polite at all,
and
but
it's like-
they're real. Like if they fucks with you, they fucks with you. Whereas like with Japanese people, you never really know if they actually fuck with you or not. You know.
I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel very kind of. It's just come into stark relief for me in that sense. Just the sheer amount of fucking dominance East Asian soft power is having currently, and whether or not we should like be alarmed by that. I'm not. I'm all for the. I'm like, give me the kawaii fucking flashing lights. If your bread and circuses are better, then I'll fucking take them. Like, I don't give a shit. And I would rather do Japanese Blade Runner fucking kawaii late stage capitalism than like this fucking shit, this like Joy Division song that is Britain right now. Like,
That's only gonna start sounding like more depressing as time goes on.
yeah.
It's just, it's just, yeah.
Fuck.
It just really, it doesn't
Yeah,
ring.
it's not fun. It's not fun.
It's not ringing any bells.
No, no,
Anymore, you know.
not at all.
And I don't know. It's also just like even getting out of like and seeing just how stunning the fucking countryside is, and how much of Japan there is to see that is also just jaw-droppingly beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Like,
fucking gorgeous.
have you been? If anyone's been to any other provincial fucking cities in the UK that are not London, Oxford, arguably Manchester, arguably Liverpool.
No, the Cotswolds.
Yeah, but even
Cambridge,
the city. Yeah, Cambridge
Bath.
is fucking
There's
tiny.
they're very
Bath
nice
is alright,
parts of the
but it's
UK,
still
don't
like
be.
not like it's not cool. It's not got like cool fucking. It's like pretty-ish, but it's like, you know, but it's nothing like you fucking get in Japan.
I think you're
That's
going a bit over
absolutely
the top.
crazy.
The Cotswolds with all those cute hobbit cottages.
Should we compare some of like
it's good
the,
enough for Ellen. Let's pull up Google images right
Should-
now so that people can see exactly what you're shit talking.
Should we pull up
I
Bournemouth,
still love
shall we?
England. Will always have a strong place in my heart. I am very disappointed that we've given up on like being the sort of soft power, classy, you know.
Bro, it's because all of our weather is fucking drab and shit. So
It's
you
just
can't
like
really.
sad that, you know, we need another James Bond movie or something.
Look, this is fake. This is not what Bournemouth looks like.
No,
it's
this is
not.
what Bournemouth looks like in the summer.
It's
show
not.
them.
I'll
Show them our beautiful country.
this is not what Bournemouth looks like. This is what someone's making
You have to switch
TikToks
the
of.
screen.
This is someone trying to TikTokify fucking Bournemouth. Nowhere in England looks like
Yes,
this.
it does.
Literally nowhere in England looks like this. I've never seen anywhere in England look like this. Like, get actually bent.
You're just
It
like
doesn't.
in like super depressive mode since we've come back. It can be pretty when it wants to be pretty.
Not when it wants to be, mate. It's barely ever. Like anywhere. It's fucking grim out there. And even like statistically, they were talking about how like if you fuck it, like the rest of the UK is basically like as poor as Mississippi.
Yeah.
If you fucking take away London. And it fucking
I'm not
shows,
laughing,
dude.
I'm sorry.
And it fucking shows. All right.
Oh my god.
So I'm
Did
not
you just
fucking.
say that the rest of England outside London is as poor as Mississippi?
Yes.
And that's not true.
That is an article I read the other day, that if you took the GDP of London out of the UK and it was just everywhere else, it would be as fucking poor as Mississippi or some provincial fucking shithole in the United States. So you're just like, okay, well that actually explains a lot of why when I go to places like Bournemouth, and it doesn't look like fucking that when they're trying to sell you a fucking brochure of some shit. It looks drab and grey, and someone's been stabbed down the street, and there's just like fucking someone's chucked doner kebab all over the street, and it's just like generally looks like an absolute fucking shithole.
Yeah.
Half of the fucking shops are shut. It's like got fucking graffiti everywhere. Like
just need
that
to,
is
like-
the general vibe of like a good chunk of like
Yeah.
most places in the fucking
The
UK.
West is cooked. We just need to like we need to make our moves. We need to make our moves fairly soon.
Nowhere does the seaside worse than Britain. Exactly, fucking dude. That is 100% correct.
I like Brighton. I have great memories of Brighton and like doing drugs on the fucking pebbly beaches and shit.
It's okay. Brighton's
It's
alright.
fun time.
Brighton's
Eating
alright.
fish and chips.
Yeah.
Getting your fish and chips stolen by like a seagull. It's a British rite of passage.
I remember taking you to a lobster restaurant in Brighton.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'd got our student finance or something, and so we were feeling flush.
You're feeling flush
And
with
I'd,
cash.
and we were down there for like a music conference or something. I can't even fucking
It
remember.
was something for university that
Yeah.
you were doing or whatever.
And
You bought me lobster
and
and
it-
I got like sick at the restaurant and then we just like ate it. in
you got
bed.
too nervous, I think, sat in the place.
No, it wasn't that. It was
then-
that I was afraid I had an allergic reaction to something.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah.
I thought I just took you to somewhere too fancy, and you were like, I can't handle this. This is too much.
No. It was just a fucking.
And then we just ate lobster in bed.
We did.
That's
It
what
was
I
very
remember.
nice.
That's my best Brighton memory.
But yeah, British seaside towns aren't that bad, but I didn't realize that they were as poor as Mississippi. That's pretty.
Amadan, Pilgrim Southampton ride it out with Alan Moore. He's in Northampton.
He's in
You
Northampton.
fucking mug. You call yourself a fan? It's Northampton.
You just
Come
committed
on.
a cardinal sin.
Northampton again. Like he does a very
Northampton's
good.
also a shithole.
He does a very good job
Don't- yeah.
of eloquently putting so much meaning
and
like
history
history
and like
into
history and stuff. Yeah.
every inch of
But it's a
of that
fucking shithole.
of that place. But it is tiny, and yeah, it is not
Yeah.
something to look at or anything.
No.
Like it's there would be absolutely no reason for me to go to Northampton
No.
other than in the hopes that I would bump into Alan Moore. At which point I'll go, oh my God, you're my favourite author. And you go, thanks, mate. And that would be that. So I don't really know like if that would be worth the £75 train ticket or whatever the fuck it would cost me to get down there. 50 quid train ticket to get there. So it's like it's not worth it.
No.
And I don't know. I think there's just it is. There's like so much more emphasis on environment and fucking what's the general public good, which is kind of the point. New Alan Moore book about London I've already read it. It is pretty good. I say pretty good, being that like his last book was Jerusalem, that was a fucking 12 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like impossible to really top. I think it was just so epically deep and fucking rich with so much fucking occult juiciness and such a fantastic story. This one was fun and good, but it was certainly not on the level of Jerusalem.
I don't know. I'm falling out of love with the city now that I've been to.
Because I've been sour grapes about it.
Yeah, I've been to three different cities in Japan now, and I'm like, this place is fucking cooked. And I think I was just like wearing rose tinted glasses a little bit before. And
the things I like about London are all the things that we do, like going to fucking jungle nights and having illegal but relatively easy access to drugs and things like that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all just fucking lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what was a big slap in the face to like me, especially. It was just like, oh, look, everything's so clean and nice, and now I actually don't feel like I need to, like, you could just go and have a drink and have a nice time. You don't have like that same, I need something visceral to fucking get me out of this like fucking shithole, which is like why we invented rave and fucking did all this crazy shit, right? So it's sort of like,
because
I don't know.
It's a shithole.
Yeah.
And it's depressing.
But I do enjoy. You need
something to break the monotony up between like work and like living.
But I do enjoy
what rave culture came out of and stuff.
And I do enjoy that stuff. So that's like the bit of like British culture.
But if I lived in
enjoy.
Japan, oh my God, I would be at Don Quixote like every day.
Yeah.
I would be like friggin', I don't know, I'd be at the onsens, like, you know, friggin'.
Don't tell him you're a fan, just act mysterious. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. I've had to deal with quite a few famous people throughout my working career, and like I've never really been that fussed about any of them, if I'm completely honest. But
that's not true.
Alan Moore, I would find it very, very hard to like keep it cool around him. I feel like because he's had way too much of a
impact on shaping us.
Yeah,
it's like a don't meet your heroes type of situation.
Not even just that. Like I would fully expect him not even to. No, I wouldn't expect him to be a grumpy asshole, because that's just like kind of a bullshit fucking, you know, reputation that they try to spread about him in the media. He's actually a pretty nice, friendly person from everyone I've heard meet him.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I just feel like, because I've followed him. He's been the most impactful artist on my whole life. Absolutely. So it would just I couldn't have like a normal conversation with him. It wouldn't happen
without spurging out and embarrassing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, moving back to like the AI shit, the AI aspect of it.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh.
Would you tell us more about the Lua and Ops/RIA?
Yes, he's talking about a schizo rant I went on in our Discord.
Oh.
Which if you haven't joined yet, you should, because if I go into another depression, it's the only way you're going to find me and hear from me.
It's like $2 or something.
Yeah,
right?
it's like $2 and you get to hear my like weird schizophrenic esoteric rants. But I'll tell you more about it on Discord, because I don't want to. It's a long story, Amadan.
Don't want to take up the stream.
But I am teaching my morbid anatomy class has started, and it's great. And thank you to all for the turnout as well. I've done like such a shit job promoting it. Yeah, I've done like such a shit job promoting it, and people still showed up. So I'm super grateful. But I'm probably gonna do another one at some point, and I probably will do one based on a lot of the esoteric stuff. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, like back to the AI stuff. Like the sort of rising dominance of East Asia has also kind of been a huge embarrassment for the Trump administration as well.
Yeah.
Let's show the Trump clip quickly. This is
The
the
Trump one.
yeah. This is
Yeah.
the clip of him when he heard the news of DeepSeek.
Couple of days I've been reading about China, and some of the companies in China, one in particular, coming up with a faster method of AI and much less expensive method. And that's good because you don't have to spend as much money. I view that as a positive, as an asset. So I really think if it's fact and if it's true, and nobody really knows if it is, but I view that as a positive because you'll be doing that too. So you won't be spending as much and you'll get the same result, hopefully. The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that.
Oh my God. So yeah, that sounded very much like cope coming from Trump, considering the fact that hang on. Yeah, considering the fact that he was one of the sort of first things he did once he was sworn in was like, you know, pledge a whole bunch of money to all of these different Silicon Valley firms that are working on Gen AI projects. Also, the inauguration was chock full of these fucking Silicon Valley technocrats. It embarrassed the administration because number one, it shows how much of a scam the AI sort of industry has been, how inflated a lot of like the predictions they've made have been, and also how fucking greedy they are in terms of the monopoly, especially OpenAI. I mean, it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, people are speculating that like the whistleblower who was talking about OpenAI sort of training its AI on copyrighted material was murdered. You know, that's sort of a speculative thing that's going around now because he died mysteriously and stuff. So there's been all this shady, underhanded stuff done to like secure a monopoly, to ensure that open source doesn't happen, despite the fact that OpenAI originally started out as an open source firm. Just like so much fucking evil and bullshit and greed right out the gate. Not only with this massive embarrassment and stock market crash, but are also characterized by something like the fucking Trumpcoin Rug-pull. It just shows you how parasitic, disgusting, and fucked up, and how so much of our new economy that they're trying to sort of push, this golden age, this new economy, is based on complete fucking air. Just vapor, just total bullshit. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Well, it's also just like I think that's what at least all the executive orders and the crazy stuff going on in America. That's kind of like Trump trying to appear like he's at least trying to do something, and something is happening, and like the same kind of playbook isn't necessarily playing out when it kind of is, but there's just kind of these other larger things happening to kind of distract you from the fact that wealth is still being extracted upwards, and like no real material gains are going to be made for most normal people and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's still kind of neoliberal politics as usual, but we're going to like actually make real conscious, publicly seen effort to tackle immigration and like do all these other kind of things. Whereas in the UK, it's just literally the same tired
Stasis,
bullshit fucking playbook, but just with a different political party doing the same ideas, but just in a slightly different way, but in nowhere near terms that are going to do anything meaningful.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, that like, you know, the reason why people voted in that way in the first place was to kind of shake things out of that quote unquote stasis. But I don't think people anticipated the level of just self-interest and greed. Like we were talking about like Japanese sort of conservatism the other day, and how basically in Japan conservatism means, you know, enforcement of pro-social rules, care for the public good, that kind of thing. The sort of perfect balance between tradition and modernity. I haven't seen a better balance anywhere else in the world, in all honesty. Whereas here in the West, conservatism means fucking enriching yourself.
Means being the most individualistic person
Yeah.
possible to make sure that you're competing the hardest
Yeah.
and getting the most gains out of
Yeah.
whichever way that you possibly can.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter in which way that is,
Yeah.
as long as it's barely
legal.
or like not legal, but you're not going to get caught.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and you should pay as little tax as possible, and
yeah.
whatever else, right?
It's absolutely insane, and it's like criminal. And that was kind of what, coming back to the UK made me realize. After you've ridden, like, I don't know, the Shinkansen, and you see how flawless it is, how much cheaper it is, how much you're getting in terms of like the cost of living, how much quality you're getting for the money you're putting out, you realize how much here is just criminal. And that also obviously leads into the way that the technology sectors are behaving in both countries. On both continents. You see how the technology sector there is about collaboration, innovation, and trying to do things as efficiently as possible. And here you have a bunch of fucking billionaires, like, literally robbing people and highly inflating shit in order to enrich themselves. It's absolutely criminal. That's the only thing that I can see that's like the driving ethos behind our culture, is this kind of criminal amorality. It's disturbing. Once you see it, you can't like unsee it.
You'll pay 70 quid to go on the Shinkansen to Kyoto, but you'll pay over £100 or near £100 to travel to this shithole on peak hours. Swindon. And again, I think Google is actually propagandizing the UK a bit, because when you type in Swindon, which is to me one of the biggest shitholes in the UK,
it looks Soviet.
and I know that because I've been there several times over many years, and it's only gotten worse, and it doesn't look like this. Okay, so like I think that Google is really like doing the most right now. It's absolutely fucking vile, but it does not look anything like that.
No.
That's the closest I could get, is this fucking bigger picture. But yeah, you'll pay nearly £100 to fucking travel on a shit train that's going half
criminal.
the fucking speed.
It's absolutely criminal. Even just in terms of housing, for what we have right now, you could get the same thing on the outskirts of Tokyo for like less than half of the cost. And it's not as if like, things run out there, despite the fact that they talk about them having a bad GDP and debt and stuff. That stuff doesn't actually mean shit for quality of life when it comes to the average person. Those are all stupid neoliberal metrics that don't actually equate to quality of life. And you see how fucking criminal our governments are, how criminal our corporate structures are, how we're getting nickeled and dimed for absolutely fucking everything. And yeah, the DeepSeek thing kind of brought into stark relief for me that there is kind of a conflicting, not that East Asia is like perfect or that they're like a savior in any way, but there is sort of a conflicting ethos between the way they're doing things in the West in terms of soft power versus like bullying and hard power, focusing on collaboration and innovation and not sort of profit-driven, profit-seeking goals in favor of like innovation versus the complete opposite. Like, there is a sort of difference in values there that kind of highlights just how psychopathic our system is and how little it gives a shit about any of us.
It's a double-edged sword, because I bet they also have like some crazy fucking AI that is unique to China because of the amount of facial recognition and like what we regard as human rights and all of those kinds of things, right? Those are kind of like not all givens in especially China.
Yeah, people have been asking DeepSeek the Tiananmen Square question.
Well, that's even like, of course,
like,
that's
blah,
all
blah,
bullshit.
blah.
But like the same AI that's so good that they can do for like fuck all money. Imagine the kind of AI that they do have that's like used by their government to track the citizens to do the social credit and all of this kind of stuff, right? Like that, they have like it's a double-edged sword, and that's why I wouldn't be like super fucking hype about China, if I'm honest, because like the whole
I'm not hype about it.
authoritarian,
I'm
like,
just
side
making
of China's,
observations.
Like, pretty
You
scary,
can't make
bro.
you can't make observations
You know?
about different modes of power without people saying you're in favor of one or the other. All I'm saying is one is like, proving to work better in the
for
current
sure.
global order.
For sure.
Not that I'm like a CCP stan or
No,
whatever.
no.
And yeah, there are, of course, major issues with it. But at the same time, DeepSeek is open source. And the thing is, a lot of the, because NVIDIA fucking crashed to shit. But then Apple is fine, and so is Meta, because number one, Apple was pretty conservative in how much it invested into Gen AI in the first place, and has kind of played the long game and has waited for all of these sorts of new models to refine themselves so that it can just come in and swoop and drink the milkshake. And then Meta also made its model open source as well. So ironically, the companies that haven't been greedy AI race fucking goblins didn't fucking crash to the ground like NVIDIA did. And NVIDIA was also obviously at the behest of the government not selling, their most high-powered chips to China and other quote-unquote rivals of the West. And yeah, wasn't it like the biggest amount lost in a day or something crazy like that?
Yeah, it's like 500 billion or something like that.
Oh
Some
my
crazy
God.
shit, some crazy number.
Oh
But
my God.
I think like also, what was it? I read or I heard somewhere that the chips that were not supposed to be the best chips that were sold to China are also like very, very minorly like downgraded or whatever. Because they still want to sell a shitload of chips to China.
Yeah.
So like they it's not like, oh, they had half the capacity. It's like, they had maybe 95% of the capacity on even those chips that they were like allowed in the thingy, plus all of the chips that were also smuggled by agents and all sorts of fucking people and stuff. So
who knows?
they certainly had the same kind of capability and capacity, and not only that, but then if you just think in terms of numbers as well, right? Like it's been even kind of goes into the whole bullshit fucking thing with H1 or HB1 visas, whatever the fuck they're called. It's just like just sheer fucking numbers, dude. There's like 1 billion fucking people in China.
Yeah.
So that's like 3 times the just raw population of America.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they've probably got like just maybe like 3 times the amount of really smart engineers that they can put on like any given thing that they fucking want to focus on.
True.
And they don't have to like kind of just look and have that kind of soft power to be the place to be for like everywhere else to flock to.
True. Very true.
And
very
like
true.
even I don't know, the whole sentiment from like kind of especially China is like shifted generationally, right? Where like our parents' generation, the one like before, was super enamored by anything Western because it's sort of like exotic or perceived as better or any of that stuff. Now it's just like that's not the reputation that the most Western brands and stuff like that have. And the next generation in China is much more interested in like supporting Chinese companies and Chinese technology and Chinese brands and stuff.
And not to mention the fact that, China, Japan, and South Korea are dominating like the beauty market currently. In terms of social media apps, they're competing. In the bread and circuses domain, they're kind of, fucking.
But I think that's like
come and swing.
That's made like a lot of like massive companies shit the bed because they see, especially China, probably more so than somewhere like Africa or even India, where like there's more social mobility in China. There's a growing middle class in a more tangible way than there probably is in Africa and in India. So that's like a bigger demographic of people to sell more expensive shit
to, yeah. Yeah.
So the fact that now everyone's just turning around and going, nah, I'm actually like, cool, I'll get like this thing which isn't imported from halfway around the world and costs half as much and does the same fucking job. So I think like the whole idea of like infinite growth, we'll just find all of these new markets to fucking keep expanding into, which is kind of like the corporate speak I constantly fucking hear through the various jobs I've had in my adult life. It's like, yeah, well, how many people can afford a subscription of this or whatever a month and this and that? And if you kind of the whole purpose of, or even way that the like economies are like supported is the fact that those countries are lesser than the West. How can you expand into them and like sell them things? That like doesn't make sense. So like the whole idea of constant forever growth, I think in just general economics is going to have a very sharp awakening in the next like couple of years.
Oh yeah, massively.
Yeah.
But even despite that, you know, part of the sort of emerging as the name has been coined, broligarchy, part of that emerging sort of, I don't know, what would you call them, cabal, is that's their whole
The
sort
tech
of
elite.
the tech elite. They're
right?
sort of like their goal is infinite growth and using the sort of opportunity they now have in the Trump administration to kind of seize the opportunity for that. And, you know, a lot of them have gotten rich off of the back of the last, you know, week or so. I think Elon Musk made it something ridiculous, like another 200 billion or something.
From what?
Once Trump was sworn in.
From what?
I don't fucking know.
Does this make any sense?
It's some investment or whatever, and also because of his proximity to Trump. All of these different things like count in terms of these like weird gamified fucking whatever.
I saw a lot of Americans reminiscing of the days when, I can't remember which, it was like Jimmy Carter or some older president was in hot water because he was seen to have a conflict of interest because he owned a peanut farm. And now, like, the amount of conflict of interest within the government is just so much that you're just like, I mean, at what point do you say that that's like not cool?
Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
not good.
Yeah.
You know.
Someone said Peter Thiel is sinister. Yes, all of them are fucking sinister, and all of the sinister goblins were like fucking front row and center at the inauguration. And then obviously, controversially, Elon Musk had a tism and did a Nazi salute.
I don't think it was that. I think it was just him knowing exactly what he was doing.
I know. I think he knew exactly what he was doing as well. I'm just joking. Like I think he knew that what he was doing and meant to do it.
Definitely.
And yeah, he's just sort of been posting L's constantly. And the thing is, I don't know why it's now that people have started to wake up to the fact that he's just kind of a rich incel. I don't know, because he seemed to have like this sort of bipartisan fan club prior to his like turn to the Trump team. There were lots of liberals who loved him and thought he was like the modern Tony Stark and that he was going to save the environment and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden he sort of started to gain clout and credibility like on the right and alienated a bunch of those people. But now even people on the right feel embarrassed about the fact that he's associated with them. Every woman in his life has run away from him other than his mother. And the weird like bug-eyed incubator thing that's like following him around right now.
Grimes.
No, there's another one. Yeah, there's another one. He's just like a really sad, weird guy that's like living proof of the fact that money cannot buy you happiness, the love of a woman, self-respect, any of those things.
Skills in a video game.
Yeah, that was another thing that surprised me. People were like, oh, that's the final straw. He lied about being good at games.
Yeah.
Like
It's just pathetic. I think it's just so pathetic to lie about something so obvious that people are going to catch you out so much. If there's any kind of rabid fan base for anything in the world, it's definitely sweaty fucking games, sweaty video games. They seem to be a very vocal group of people on the internet.
Yeah.
So if you make a really big song and dance about how you're number one and you're this and that, people are going to look into that and they're going to look at it and look for 5 seconds and realize that you're a fucking complete liar. And like, it's just the most stupid retarded thing to fucking lie about. And if you would lie about something as so stupid and egotistical and retarded as like being number one at Path of Exile 2, then God knows what else you would fucking lie about.
But I don't understand
Like-
why that's the fight. Like, who? It's obvious. Like, it's always been obvious that this dude is like literally the fucking most pathetic person, and is just literally like a rich incel. All of them are rich incels.
But now we have like verifiable, unavoidable proof of that. Do you know what I mean? Like you hear, oh, he says weird things. He said I'm the alpha when he was getting married to me and at my wedding, and weird stories about him and this and that, which all indicate to exactly what you're saying. But they're all hearsay and like kind of not. You don't really have any. You don't have a video of him gloating over a fake fucking account
Yeah.
on the internet
No.
to millions of people.
No.
Like it's the most red-handed bullshit fucking
Yeah.
thing ever. And I think the fact that it's just so blatant and waved in everyone's faces like that really just sent everyone over the fucking edge and just like wasn't gonna fucking
Look,
wasn't gonna
he's
stand
a
for it.
cancer. I've never met a male cancer that wasn't like kind of BPD and like desperate for attention. But then on top of that, despite the fact that he's this kind of weird, pathetic figure, he does believe in a lot of dangerous shit. Like, I have no doubt that he's like, you know, into some pretty wild authoritarian ideas, considering like his family's ties to the Technocracy Party, his weird obsession with birth rates and shit, and like his weird Lebensborn fucking harem of BPD hoes that he keeps impregnating or whatever. Like, he's a weird guy who believes a lot of weird shit. And I think that because he's the richest man in the world, and now he's sort of successfully been able to kind of back the Trump administration financially in terms of having an effect on its social capital. He thinks he's like the king of everything, and that he can throw up a Nazi salute if he wants to fucking throw up a Nazi salute. And I think that should worry everybody.
How's R2D2, whatever her name is, doing these days? Elon and Grimes' daughter, I meant. I don't know, but I know that the one that had another weird name of like Xy, it sounded like an Aphex Twin song, is like the little kid that he's calling X that he's dragging up on the fucking
Yeah.
stage with Trump and shit.
Yeah.
Like, so that's pretty wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, it feels like a very, very strange world that we're living in, and it's getting
it's
increasing.
scary because it's like techno-feudalist fucking insanity. It's pathetic because Americans, like, you know, fought the British and like made a whole new country to like get rid of feudalism, only to like recreate it again in the 21st century, which is pretty embarrassing for them. And then on top of that, the two people who are at the helm of this new image of like techno-feudalism are like weird billionaire incels who like have women in their lives that like hate them and can't stand the sight of them. It's just like, it's such an awful, like I'm saying, Japan, China, they're putting out this strong fucking fun, you know, kawaii imagery, and like America is giving like fucking Emperor Palpatine vibes. Like, it's like it's not good. It's not a good look at all.
Especially since COVID, like this quote from Terence McKenna has just been ringing through my head, like at times like this where I just feel kind of overwhelmed by stuff. Where he said, I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. People are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's just too nuts. And like, it just every year feels like that now.
Yeah.
Every year of my adult life, almost every
Yeah.
year since I graduated,
Every month
literally
almost
feels
even.
feels
'Cause
like
think about
it's going in this kind of weird singularity to this moment that Terrence is talking about. If you know what I mean, when like there's like AI robots and fucking aliens like talking to each other on Reddit about the best fucking fish and chips recipe or like ramen or whatever, then I feel like we are gonna have to start talking about how weird
it's
it is,
weirder,
or we
but
just
also
keep ignoring it. Like, I don't know.
we've also robbed ourselves of the language to talk about how weird it is as well. Like, especially with the whole techno feudal situation with the sort of fascistic undertones. one of the things that pisses me off the most about the left, and that makes me the most angry, and that has made me the most depressed, is the fact that like they've played the boy who cried wolf so much with the term fascism. They've made any kind of, you know, calling out of authoritarianism completely facile at this point. That when a tech billionaire fucking incel is throwing up Nazi salutes on stage, you look crazy. You look like the fucking crazy one for pointing it out. And I think that that's a very dangerous situation to be in when you have this thing going on in front of you and you've totally been robbed of the language to be able to call it out to describe reality. I think that's really scary and like not a good place to be at all.
No.
But like, what can one do about it?
Global weirding, Ubik. That's an absolutely fantastic. That's a fucking album right there. That's an album title and a whole fucking theme.
But what can one, back to my question though, what can one do about it? What is the answer to that sort of predicament where you are robbed of the language? Like you can't call out the obvious without being called like a woke retard or whatever.
Yeah, you just have to strap in and let it keep getting weird until people are ready to talk about how weird it is.
That's not the answer.
Why?
You can't just strap in and continue letting it get weirder. Like, fuck.
That's kind of
how much weirder do you want it to fucking get?
I would regard probably both George Carlin and Terence McKenna as wiser men than I. And I think
I don't think their advice was just to strap in and watch it get weird.
George's attitude was absolutely welcome to the freak show, and if you're in America, you've got a front row seat.
True.
Like that is exactly
very
George
true.
Carlin's
very
energy,
true.
and I think Terence that is very well summed up. Like, you know, his kind of idea on how things are heading as well, right? And that was like back in the 90s, bro.
Yeah, true.
And that's like before. I think that is said actually even before the internet is like really even a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. How weird is life compared to that, but all the way back then?
I don't know. I'm not ready for technocratic space Nazi fucking.
It's a different kind of weirdness.
Like, who wants that? I want cool weirdness. I want the weirdness that East Asia is like fucking offering, which is just like kawaii fucking hyper pop.
I think the soft power
that sounds
and the
like
stuff,
fun.
The soft power and the stuff you're talking about is also like reflected in the way that we all feel about AI, right?
Yeah.
Like the internet was so, and it's even happening in some kind of way, but the general feeling from most people is like it's kind of immoral. It's robbed all of this data and this stuff to like make these things for these certain people to get more wealth from and like rich and whatever. It's kind of like it's a interesting tool, and like it's clearly capable of doing some interesting things, but like it's you know, something still not to be fully trusted or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not this kind of like very like really overly positive kind of general census and feeling about it, whereas the internet was like maybe it had this kind of more naive kind of like, oh, this is gonna fucking change the world, this is gonna be great kind of attitude, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. There's sure the Y2K like whatever fucking like boomer fucking retards. Yeah. But like I think the general feeling of like the early internet was one of positivity and hope, and like one of like connecting people now sounds cynical and stupid and lame, whereas then that was like, whoa, I'm speaking to this guy from South Korea. I'm fucking playing fucking StarCraft with someone in Brazil.
Yeah,
like it was like really fucking cool. Mm-hmm. And now it's just like, oh well, that person's like got like they're probably a paedophile, or they're probably like, you know, grooming someone on Discord when they're not like on this and that. Connecting people now means everyone's seen the kind of evil shit side of it, or like as the Nigerians say, we've seen technology finish. Yeah. And so now our attitude to technology is cynicism. What is it going to do next? And how's it going to fuck us up? And how is power going to use it to further entrench its fucking bullshit and fucking extractive philosophy and fucking everything else on normal working people? It's not one of like, oh yeah, oh, it's gonna do my dishes. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. It's gonna be used for surveillance and for ways to like, you know, track fucking this and it's just like, it's not. That's what the vibe is shifted in that way. Yeah, and that is related to soft power and the way that people relate to generally how things are done.
Yeah.
I think the attitude in the 90s, sure, Schizo, X-Files, there's some dodgy stuff going on, but generally the way things are done, things are generally working.
Mm-hmm.
People had the general consensus that things are generally working. I could buy a house, I can do this, I can do that. Economy is not like completely fucked, and all these are kind of like crazy things. Inequality isn't like so crazy that it's like so rampant that it's just blatant in your face in that kind of like ridiculous fucking way.
Yeah.
Like it's you know, it's all kind of functioning.
Yeah.
So that you didn't have that kind of feeling about stuff. But as things now in the West certainly have like deteriorated, and none of it functions, and you've seen them finish constantly over and over again and extract and do it at every single chance and moment that they possibly can. Nobody has this feeling of like, they're going to do a good job for us, guys. Like, yeah, it's going to be good. We're all going to benefit from this.
No.
Like, you know,
no.
That's not the feeling.
I mean, there is a hopeful aspect in the fact that the monopoly that was being planned by, you know, people like Sam Altman at OpenAI, because it got to the point where Sam Altman was talking about like rewriting the social contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, just kind of trust us, bros. This technology is going to like put a lot of power in our hands, but don't worry, we have your best interest in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, you know, DeepSeek being open source has kind of disrupted a lot of those plans in this very kind of Uranus style
kind of, not
way
really.
For my astrology aficionados.
If you want a little chatbot, then yeah, great, sure.
Well, no,
it
in
will
terms
be.
of the infrastructure surrounding it, how little it took to
no one.
Lots of stuff. It's disrupted the monopoly that OpenAI was planning on having in a lot of major ways, and a lot of the funding that, you know, they were kind of trying to justify funneling their way.
I guarantee you no meaningful infrastructure would be built on anything open source in that way, or anything that especially that would have origins from fucking China. Like, no. So any banking software, any surveillance, any of that stuff that you would be considered secure private data, all of those things, none of that's going to be built on something that is open source or whatever. They might take that open source model and then build their own version and proprietary stuff bolted on to specifically fit the application that they need and all that kind of stuff. But at that point, it's then a closed software
again, yeah.
Right? Okay. So like, it's not like, oh, now that they've done this amazing open source software, it's just that everyone's going to use open source. Open source is the best. Like, you sound like a Linux bro. And that's just like, no.
Oh my God.
It's not the future. It's not how it's going to fucking work. Like, people, there's like really valid reasons as to why certain systems are closed systems. And for something as innocuous as like a chat bot for you to ask your homework or reference something or bounce ideas off of, sure, this is fine. Like, you absolutely can have like an open source thing. If you wanted that thing to have access to all of your photos and all the more kind of intimate parts of your life to help you plan things or to help you whatever, having something that's like built and controlled on your own device that isn't connected to a cloud, that isn't sending your data anywhere else, those are the things that is kind of like really powerful for. And I think those are a lot of the areas in which like the AI companies essentially wanted to make products to sell people to do those things, like to make the money back that Trump and all of these other investments for OpenAI like need to do. They need to make, I think, $600 billion a year.
Yeah.
To make like
any kind of
investors
profit,
actually start getting paid back.
Yeah.
And that would mean that they would need products to sell people a value of $600 billion. And so that's kind of where the big like shit the bed moment is, because you can't really go around charging governments that kind of money to build infrastructure based off of your skeleton of technology to then branch it into all these other things. You can't like just go around and milk all the governments of the world for stuff. And if you can't then sell personal bots that can do these like nifty things because there are open source versions that already beat it or are good enough, then what can you sell it for?
Yeah. And
like that's where it kind of gets really tricky, and where I think kind of the partnership with things like robotics is going to kind of have the biggest impact, because that's stuff that people can't really do very easily at home, right? build a fucking robot.
Yeah.
Like, especially with any of the kind of like capability that we've seen in any of the videos from either China or any of the American companies.
Yeah, like Boston Dynamics.
There's
and stuff.
like, you know, you're not gonna build that in your room in your spare time.
Unfortunately not.
Like, unless you're fucking Einstein or you have like
or Dexter.
Yeah, or you've got no hobbies and this is your new hobby and you have no other life. But like, if you're trying to make jungle music and like play video games as well, how are you also? Oh, maybe you also learn Japanese. How are you also then gonna fucking build a robot in your spare time? It's just like not gonna happen.
It's just not gonna happen, bro. Sorry.
You know, it's so you end up with like then I think like a lot of some power will be concentrated into like who can make those kinds of the ways that the technology extends into the real world, because it's all well and good having something that can just you know, you can talk to or whatever. If you have something that then can control a computer like a human being, that's another step, right?
Big time.
And they're already trying stuff like that and whatever, and then there'll be some maybe open source version that even does that for you. And then you don't need to pay whoever a fucking subscription as you.
Well,
as a
yeah,
small
fucking
business
OpenAI is $200.
You know, yeah.
And lots of businesses are using DeepSeek now. They're fucking charging you $200 for the fucking pro version. That's what I'm saying is, regardless of how you feel about China or whatever the fuck, this shit is disruptive in a very Uranus way to the plans of the tech elite. And I like it. I like it. I'm feeling it.
Social creatures. DeepSeek is not a chatbot. It's an LLM, which is a chatbot, right? It's a very advanced chatbot. That is what it is. It's a large language model. Internet protocols are basically open source. They are, but internet protocols and internet infrastructure in general is also kind of like run by these huge fucking committees and stuff. So it's also like an incredibly slow pacing, most bureaucratic, like crazy fucking thing to try and manipulate or change in that kind of way or whatever. So that I would see, like, I don't know how AI would kind of improve those things, because it still needs to go through all of the kind of bureaucratic process of getting approved by all these different fucking committees and stuff. It's like I read this great book on the infrastructure of the internet. It's very fascinating. There's even like some stuff that has physical keys in locations that needs people to attend to like all turn at the same time to do certain, like, it's absolutely insane how fucking like archaic and like secure some of the like heart of the internet is. So like, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know why I went on that bit of rant, but yeah, I think DeepSeek is a fucking chatbot, and like at the point when it can start, when any of these things can start to use a machine, that's when, and I think people are also confusing kind of the terms of like AI and deep learning, I guess, in a way where like AI is sort of, yeah, the thing that would simulate a kind of intelligence, something that is almost just like a fucking tool that you just blanketly like run in a cloud or something, is kind of like a deep learning process that does something crazy and like amazing. Like there's some of the stem separation stuff that, you know, is available in music and that kind of thing. Why are you pinching me?
Because you're like fucking rambling.
I'm not.
What's your point? Yeah,
AI
what's your
stuff,
point?
right?
Get to the point.
That like all of this shit is still way early and everyone's freaking out about it, and it's a similar kind of bubble to what it was in the 90s with the internet, but the only people that are hyped about it are the oligarchy.
Yeah,
like the feeling and the consensus amongst people is that of skepticism and fucking you know, dubiousness.
Yeah, that's
and
a good point. Yeah,
feeling amongst the oligarchy and people that control already the infrastructure and businesses which are going to benefit most from this stuff are screaming from the hilltops and saying how amazing it's going to be and how they're going to replace it.
Well, largely because them doing that benefits them. Them doing that gets investors hyped. I mean, the reason the fucking stock market crashed, and the stock market crash isn't just like a thing that affects it affects everything. The amount of hype they were saying about, you know, the land, the construction, the things for service based, all the jobs it's supposed to create, like, you know, all the jobs that will be lost now that, like, you know, a bunch of companies have lost money. This stuff like affects people's lives, and yeah, it's all based on nothing, because it's like crypto. You benefit by being the hype man and by getting other people invested in the hype. And it just shows you how so much of these different economic models are based on hype and belief. And once people stop believing the hype, the whole thing just like unravels completely.
Maybe. I think it's all. Yeah, it's all a lot of hype, but it's all waiting to see how it can actually do stuff. Because I think if there are ways that it can end up just using a computer, just like a person, there's absolutely no, like a good chance that that will disrupt a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because how much of some people's jobs is just touching keyboard for money.
True.
It's gonna be pretty crazy.
Very true. Well, we'll wait and see. But anyway, folks, we love you. And we are back this time. We're out of our funk. We're slowly emerging out of our post-Japan depression. But we will be back next week. And I'm going to be back with video essays. I promise. Everything's going to be back. We're going to be back to normal. You can count on me. You can count on me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for spending time with us this evening. And we hope to catch you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.